Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is the show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. Oh man, it's been a rough last few days. Recorded the last episode on Friday, and it is currently Sunday evening. So had a long day at work. Very long. Closing up at Target is an interesting affair because you might be scheduled to get off at 10 and not leave until like 10:30. So I put in the hard day's night, and I'm working like a dog. But anyway, on to more interesting things. Today's episode I'm going to title This Old Meta, sort of similar to This Old House with Bob Vila, for those who actually remember that. It was big back in the 80s and the 90s. It's probably the inspiration behind Tim the Toolman Taylor for, what was that, Home Improvement? That show was awesome. That one of the best shows of classic 90s television. Anyway, the main reason I'm bringing this up is I've only started to relook at the meta, and I'm not going to say, oh wow, this is what I've dug up and found, but I have come to some weird conclusions, and I'm going to share them to you in a free form fashion so that we can, gather some thoughts together. We can also come to this point where we can look deeply into the pool of the meta and say, what do I want to pull out of this? And so I think that's the best thing to start. So we're going to be a little bit all over the place. So bear with me today. This is going to be rough. And the main reason it's going to be rough is now we have to think again. And I know that sounds weird, but if you think about, since Team Base's introduction and some other stuff, we really haven't been thinking that hard since about April. Yeah, April. I mean, yes, we talked about, how to beat Team Bases and, things inside our head and team design and all this other stuff in High Point Meta. But really having to come back in mind like hard and pull gems out and not just try to get the gold dust, from the water that's coming by. We haven't had to do that for a while. And so what I'm going to do is admit something that I guess I haven't really said too directly publicly, is that now with these changes, I'm forced to actually work. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. I'm forced to actually work. Because I could say to an extent, for the last few months, I've been a bit on autopilot and the interviews and some other stuff, but really there wasn't much to go into. And so now you have to, do your research and look at your figures and, get your rules lawyering hat back on and come back and say, hey, guess what? I got this new exploit fun goodness. Maybe split and merge. I need to look at that again. Maybe morph mechanic. I need to look at that again. Oh, wow. All that mind control that popped up that was completely bunk before now is actually, useful. So this is, like I said, this is going to be an interesting show. It's going to be freeform, and hopefully we will see in the next few weeks the Giants awakening. I don't want it to be like the sleeping giant, figuratively, of this one major, entity moving. But I want to say giants, because I am hoping that we will see multiple streams of strong combative play back into the meta. Considerations of maps, considerations of range, considerations of spatial manipulation exploits. Now that they're toned down, what do they actually mean other than just gang beating people's face in? So like I said, the title of the show and our topic today is This Old Meta. What we're trying to bring out of this old, rusty, decrepit house that's called the heroclix meta, so that we can renovate it and make it seem nice again, and actually so people can live in it. Okay, so first off, I'm not going to go through the watch list point by point, but I am going to bring out some things that allow us to refocus. Okay, first off, I think the biggest thing that we need to look at is, now that team bases don't give us an auto win on map, now what? That's the first thing. Can we play a strong 4 or 5 figure team and still win, or still get map? That's a better way. Not win map. Just not win, but win map. So let's take the big easy offender Shi'ar team base. With the new rules at 200 points, they're toned down big time, and I feel that unfortunately they are no longer meta at 200 because they only can do one action, and their stats are just okay. Yes, they have flurry, but they need to get into place, and there's nothing currently really that can help them do that. And I know Lilandra can, spatial time warp, but you're talking about a really tough setup, and their biggest advantage is flurry given by Gladiator. So now, not being able to bamf in and do that flurry, or move up and then flurry, really puts the Shi'ar team base at like the crap end of the meta. Really, them, New Mutants, Gen 13, and what is it, Brotherhood? I think Brotherhood is 200 point. And there's another one. I think maybe Hellfire Club. So those bases aren't as strong as they were before. But in a 300 point game, we are now coming to that realization is, okay, team bases are on equal footing as colossals in that point range. Okay, they're on about equal footing as colossals in that same point range. Or even more so, I would say I would pick a 200 point master mold over most team bases that are in that 200 point range, just for the fact I get multi-attack. I mean, pure and simple. I get multi-attack, and the dial length and the stats are about the same. And I know people are going to say, well, Master Mold's about to retire, next year, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Master Mold is awesome. Okay? And that puts us at this new reality. At 300 points, team bases are not as scary because they can't get off, unless you're playing them at 300, they can't get off 3 attacks. They can only get off, if you play them at a full 300, 2 attacks. Okay? And at 200, 1 attack, and at 100, 1 attack. So we can have a team base, and I think New Mutants does come in at like 100 something. And that's just me going off the top of my head, and it's not quote worthy. But with that reality, that now means that if you do play the team base because you have nothing else that pops into your mind to play, you are now at a tactical and actional disadvantage. Really, unless you flood in a bunch of minions for the next 100 to 200 points that you have. And I mean, and that's the reality, is that unless you are able to backfill really well in a 300 point game, most teams are going to out action you. And truthfully, I am more than fine with that. Mainly because there's a lot more creative options out there. Mainly, I like that Shatterstar tech, but we'll get to that in a little bit. And then let's see. Yep. New Mutants can come in at around 100, really under 100. But that dial is so not worth it. So not worth it. Not for 100 points. There's so much better stuff out there. So I think that's the first thing, because when we start looking at some of these dials at their rookie levels, I think we're going to start saying like, I don't think that's worth it. I don't think that that's worth it at all. We will also start to reevaluate team bases, just team bases under 400. And what does that mean? Like, I'll look at Shi'ar at 300 points and I could be like, that's pretty awesome. I actually like that. With a little bit of support and some perplex here and there, they could still put a hurting on a lot of teams and still be threatening. But at the same time, Super Double Sword Thor and Odin and, Cosmic Spider-Man and, let's see, who is it? Earth 2 Superman can still bring the pain to them. They can still have problems. Now, with that caveat being said, the dial for a team base is not that good in the 200 point realm. Really 400 points and less. So where our next analysis needs to start directing toward is, so what good is a team base? And where I feel that the direct advantage of the team base is now purely in solo adventure. Purely in solo adventure. So let's break this down a bit more. All right, so I have the New Mutants team base at the rookie level, and I have a craptastic dial. It just really is. There's no way to get around it. Now, I do have access to some cool stuff from the asset dial, and the asset dial could potentially be useful. So let's look at some cool stuff on the asset dial. Okay, if we got magic on here, we can get some probability control, and if we got warlock showing up, we can get perplex. Okay, so do we get magic and warlock on the same click? They got so... Okay, yeah, we do. I think it's click 13. Magic and warlock. So we can get perplex and prob out. So our main goal is to try to, be useful, shoot around, do what we can, and get that to click 13. Now I know it's like, well, there's no way to get to click 13 unless we cheat, blah, blah, blah. It's one pick out of all of them. Yeah, I know, I understand. But it's pretty good. Magma is poison, but if we look at that rookie dial, it's like, buddy. That's not going to help you. Now, Wolfsbane could be interesting with the Blaze Claw's Fangs, mainly when we get on click 3 of that rookie dial. But I really am not feeling the Blaze Claw's Fangs. Now, we can start looking at another element that will be very useful for the team bases, and it's their traits and all their weird stuff. So, like, Embarrass the Hellions. When the New Mutants KO an opposing character with an attack, give each opposing character an action token. That's board control. It also makes playing Pogs a risk against New Mutants. Okay, so now I'm looking at, how am I going to use this team base? Well, I can't just brute force this. I have to actually think. I have to use the team base as support. Oh my gosh, who would have thought that? Team base as support. Okay? And my main goal for the team base is as a finisher. My main goal of this team base is to kill Pogs so that we can create lockdown situations. My main goal with this team base is to pop off Magma or pop off Sunspot. Oh yeah, pop off Sunspot because he's OP. He's so OP on his rookie level. Yeah, just pop him off. That's all you really need. But there you go. I mean, there's the beginning of this development of, okay, now let's think of some meta. Let's think of some ideas. What can we actually do? What is the unfolding of this? So overall, I think the main thing that we're going to start looking at team bases is like, all right, I have a team base. It can't kill as hard as it could before. But now I have to start thinking about all the guys I'm popping off. So I would say like Justice League at 300 might still be high level meta because of how strong that Batman is, how strong that Wonder Woman is, how strong Green Lantern is, how strong Flash is. So all those elements combined, Cyborg is okay popping off, and so is Aquaman, but you're never going to pop those two off because of you would lose too much of an advantage. But when you think and you put everything together, you could say, all right, I now can pop off 2 to possibly 3 additional figures, and now I can catch up with the actions that I've lost now to the rechanging of working together. So mark my words, the war isn't over. With team bases, they're toned down, but the new fight is working together and how we as players really use working together. And then you might, not working together, solo adventure, I apologize. The new battle is solo adventure, and how we manipulate solo adventure, and more so how game design decides to elaborate on the figures that go on the team base and their understanding of solo adventure. Because I feel that because this mechanic is still very new, they really don't understand what they're doing still. Just say, in a respectful manner, they don't fully understand what they're doing. And so there's some potential for some exploits that they weren't thinking about. I also think the fact that the points that you get a full points for the KOing like a rookie version of someone's dial is also a little bit silly. But oh well, what am I going to do? So anyway, that's the first thing. We see how good team bases still are, and that we can still, if we play a 200 or 100 point team base, we can still fill it in full of fodder. And yes, we don't get crazy to map roll, but now we actually have to think about what surrounds our team base if we do have the points. Okay. The next thing that I think that we need to look at is what is our new damage paradigm? What is our new damage paradigm? So with the utility belt officially nerfed and charge flurry gone and infinite +2 stat attack gone, or easy infinite stat attack gone with like GCPD through Lex Luthor, we are now faced with some new realities. And then also, just real briefly, shout out to George Masu, because Masu has forced WizKids to change the rules multiple times. First, with you can't use probability control, theme team probability control on a figure that's used prob normally, and that's due to his Gen Con winning team. And then let's see, this year with his GCPD shenanigans as well. So big up to George on that. So going back, what is our new damage paradigm and what is our new attack paradigm? Now, we still have team bases in the meta. Ooh, yes, but their defenses are moderate. But we still have that crazy, hello, welcome to 20 land. At the same time, we have Book of the Skull, which is giving us hammers like we're over in the hardware section of Walmart. And they're just hammers everywhere. And you know what's sad? I can't think of an actual hardware store. That's what these big chains do. They just wipe out hardware stores, I guess. Anyway, so, no, Sherman Williams is paint. I'm thinking Sherman Williams is a brand of paint. Oh, gosh, that's bad. Anyway, so we actually see now that the Book of the Skull is high-level meta. High-level meta, and here's why. Because +2 attack on anything that's able to get it is ridiculously broke strong. Okay, because we're looking still, what's our average defense? 17, even 18, 17 to 18. What's our average attack? 9 to 11. So a hammer can give us 11 to 13 attack. That's pretty good. And that's also if we follow some of our basic team design. If we have this wonderful thing called prop, the chance of actually missing is very low. So forget even Angrier's dumb, broke, strong hammer of regen and steel energy and charge and toughness and all manner of stupid things that should never exist on one character. At least at all points in time in the dial. If we forget that and we just look at purely that the Book of the Skull gives us a +1 stat for all our stats, not for all stats, for each stat slot at one point in time for a specific character so they can get an added boost, but then also has the ability of giving +1 or +2 all stats at some point in time in the dial for a big burst explosion. Now, when we look at this, that means that if we are playing something like the Book of the Skull, then our damage potential is going to come in this wave. It's going to go up. It's going to keep increasing as we're doing damage and so forth and KOing figures. And then it's going to hit this crescendo where we hit that, wow, plus stats, all stats. We do that action and then it goes down because we've reset the dial. So we actually do have sort of a wave offense going on, but we always have that +2 so that amount of pressure stays consistent. Now, with the concept of multiple attacks, and big shout outs to the Dial H for heroclix guys for pointing this out, is that if you do use the quake element, the free quake, and then you do a normal attack, well, guess what? Your free quake, when you pick up that hammer, is going to cause your second attack to have like a -1 damage. Now, where I think the exploit around that is that there are powers that are locked in damage that they can't be modified or changed, and if you use that locked power, then on the second attack, then that's it. You know, it's locked. It can't be avoided. It doesn't matter what the rule says. It's the same as ignore and I was about to say cancel. Oh, buddy. Too many games in the head. I told you, man. We have to think again. Countered. Just like ignore and countered. Those two things just bypass a whole subset of rules. Same thing with locked. So we're looking at a situation where we can, unless you have an ability that says blah 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 damage is locked, using that free quake could be a problem. But if your benefits outweigh your cons, then do what you need to do. So anyway, going on, if you are able to afford to deal with a character that has like a Hulk dial where it gets beefy in the middle or at the end of the dial, and it just gradually becomes better, then go ahead and start looking at the Book of the Red Skull as, hey, if this character has 3 damage and goes down to a minimum of 2 damage, I am still fine because of these potential outcomes that I can get with the hammers and with the Book of the Skull. But if you're not using the Book of the Skull, then we might have to go back to saying, hey, 3 damage, outwit, enhancement, or empower. So that for whatever attack that we're doing 5, 6, 7 damage. And we still have a lot of cheap 4 damage running around the game that's not attached to a team base. So what about that? So these new realities start coming up that since movement and placement and a lot of other elements that were unrestrained before are now a bit more restricted. We are we actually have an option to fight back, and we actually have an option to set up, glass cannons once more. So, and just sort of bring this into perspective, sort of crystallize some things. I know I am reverting back, dealing with team bases, but if you look at Justice League at 300 in the new meta with two actions, what ends up happening is Justice League can move up 10, running shot 5, because I think their movement is 10. It could be higher than that on their first click. I'm just going off the top of my head. Running shot 5 have a range of 10. I think their range is 10. 10 or 9. Because I forgot if they have a 7 or an 8 range. Because Cyborg boosts up their range by 2. So they can still get first strike. Don't get me wrong. They can still get first strike. The problem is once they shoot, that's it. They are stuck. They can't do a second shot, and they sure the heck can't do a third shot. So that's it. They're done. No mas. So that means that a Justice League against a team that is, prepared, has fortifications, and I'm going to get into that in a moment, can force the Justice League player to now say, daggone it, I can't run across the map. Because if I do, I am going to get lit up. Because they have a cannon figure that can do 4, 5, or 6 damage with their formation. Just pure and simple. So anyway. So let's move on. Defensive options. Defensive options are now viable once more. Who would have thunk? Okay. Now, does Justice League still ignore shape change and super senses and all that other jazz? Yeah. Yeah. So does Pulse Wave. But not being able to do 2 attacks or 3 attacks really makes it now that, impervious and invincibility and a few other powers get to come out and shine. You get to say to Justice League and some other team bases like, hey, homie, you hit me. I know you did. But guess what? These 3 other hombres over here are going to avenge me, and avenge me mighty well. So that's the interesting thing. The next thing that becomes interesting when we're looking at our defensive options is Bunker is now back on top of our defensive options. Smoke Cloud plus Barrier. And I said it back during the Teen Titans analysis. I was like, if it wasn't for team bases, he would be freaking awesome. And now team bases have been taken care of, and he's freaking awesome. The concept of perma barrier and perma smoke cloud, and it only resetting when you the player chooses to do so, means that you are now in this utmost position of fortification. Is turtling dead? Nope. The shell is a bit chipped, but it's still a function. I think the turtle has to get some machine guns mounted on top so it can survive in the brand new world that we're in. I think that's our bigger problem that the old game and the designers were trying to deal with, was that turtle. You can turtle hard. You can turtle so hard. Really once the Infinity Gauntlet came in, there were so many figures that allowed you to turtle so hard that they needed to create a mechanism to fix it. But They just needed to nerf the element of why you needed to turtle hard. I mean, they just need to nerf some things. Now, here's the cool part. Since that old, not Coming of Galactus, the Galactic Guardian, that Galactic Guardian Avengers movie era stuff is still just there, and it's like, we're not past our expiration date is what they're yelling. If we go back and we revisit some of those cosmic level characters, we might actually say to ourselves, oh snap, I think they can fight once more. I think they just got enough juice in them to blow up one more planet. And that's the scary part that's going to creep back. The fact that I can have Doctor Strange just chilling in my starting area, getting my astrals together, and finding a team to just deploy them through. And just say, oh, guess what, man? I'm going to send these astrals and this other stuff, and I got some other, characters on here. Forget that. Just don't pay attention to them. And I'm going to incap you, and oh yeah, I forgot I incapped you. And I'm going to side blast you, and I'm going to do this to you here and there. And I got all these guys hanging next to me, and they're upping my damage. But don't worry about that too much, because I'm using this other effect as well. That's viable. Coming back, and again, that's a more higher point game than 300. But there are some things like Silver Surfer, ride with me, Silver Surfer. And I said to myself, like, oh man, like I feel this is an awesome power, but his stats aren't quite there, and there's some other stuff that needs to be done. And then when you add in team bases that cleared the map better than he did, then there's some problems. But then when you start looking at now, like, oh, wow, he has some potential to hurt some fools, and then also like jump off two of his fellow friends with Defenders keyword and just say, hey, this is my homie Namor, and hey, this is my homie Doctor Strange. We have a 19 defense, and Namor has like a ridiculous attack, and he's going to grab a heavy and smack you when he can. And oh yeah, magical cosmic powers. Ba-da! So I think there's some things to come back just shenanigan and tricks wise, but I digress majorly. Like I said, free flowing thought today, people. Free flowing thought. We can get our notepads and we can, get the incense out and the aromatherapy candles and be like, I ponder the philosophical cosmos that is within heroclix. We can take that moment. And I do not promote drug use. I'm actually literally talking about like incense and candles. I'm not talking about their narcotic equivalents, people. Okay. So, going back to the whole barrier element is the fact that we are able previously to turtle so hard, and that people have been trying to find other ways to turtle so hard and failing. I think the concept that most of the turtling people have gotten in their mind is, I need to punch something. I need to have my figures punch something. So what we're going to see is the mobile fortress mindset, which is some defensive elements with moderate attacking. We're not seeing everybody attack. We're going to see a lot of defensive role players by most of the figures, and very few attackers. So I would say probably like a 1-2 to a 1-3 ratio. One attacker for 2 to 3 support figures. And I think that's going to be the new turtle ratio. I also think that we could see the rebirth of the Green Lantern tank. Whatever that means. I think we're on the cusp of it. And I'm saying this with a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's a bit truth. If the game design went so far as to create Lamp with the cop car, I don't see why they won't go in when they're mentally exhausted and recreate the Green Lantern tank. I think that one's next up on the list because they've already done the super mega tip pole that kills everything. They've done that. The Green Lantern tank just hasn't been reinvented in the era of feats. But I think that it may be coming with improved targeting. Okay, because what's the core of the Green Lantern tank? Having a whole bunch of weenies that give you buffs and support that blocks line of fire to you so that you can ignore your own little force weenies blocking line of fire, and so that you can shoot what you need to shoot. Okay, so I'm just saying, I think that may be a new reality that could be coming. So it's something that we need to keep our eyes peeled for. Let's move forward. Let's look at maps and map selection and our thought process on maps. Previously, our thought process on maps was, what can screw over our opponent so that my team base can go around and do its will? That was pretty much it. Now we have to step back and say, okay, I have my force, team base or not, and I need to have fortified positions. I need to have points on the map that I can run to and retreat to and go to fight my battles. I think what we could start seeing, and this is some meta that we would have to create, and I would be interested in everyone's feedback, is this: hit and run skirmish attacking. Hit and run skirmish attacking. And here's why I say this. I've been playing the Might and Magic Duel of Champions, so if you ever see me on Twitter saying, the card crack got me, staying up late again, or anything like the mistress is keeping me from the bed, then yeah, that's the game. I mean, League of Legends got pushed to the side a bit once I started playing Might and Magic Duel of Champions. And if Hearthstone was out, I'd probably be on that digital crack. Not gonna lie. I might do a podcast about Dark Logos, how I've become a functional addict when it comes to games. I might just say that. And you might be like, ha ha ha, Dark Logos, good joke. But I mean, no, literally, if you talk about addictions, I'm probably a functioning addict to all, psychological definitions. But anyway, in Might and Magic Duel of Champions, there's a race that I played called Sanctuary, and they have the ability with some of their creatures, when you put them into play on the grid, you can move your opponent's figures to other parts of the grid. At the same time, they also have, depending on your magic set, there's also a primal spell called Teleportation, which allows you to move a character in one square and put them into another square. Now, what it does, it creates this hit and run tactic that is annoying as fire when someone does it to you, and is broke strong when you do it to someone else. And is that you take a character, you hit the other person's card, your guy would die the next turn if you were hit by that major character, and you just end up moving your character to another square where it's safe, where another monster can't kill your guy. And then you can wash, rinse, and repeat as many times as you want if you have the cards or the hero power. And so, how are we going to do this, pray tell, with the map being in consideration? And I think this is where we start looking at our teleportation effects. This is when we start looking at Shi'ar functionally. And I hate to say it, like at 300 points or higher. I hate to say that, put that little stipend on there, but I have to. At 300 points or higher, we're looking at Shatterstar. We are looking at Spiral. And I want to make some things clear. All that analysis that I had in the last episode with Spiral, you can sort of copy and paste the idea of the false pressure or retreating back to the base, and that we functionally shrink the map. And sort of similarly with Shatterstar. But I want to expand the concept and say this. If we are able to create these bridges, these functional space bridges within the game, using Shatterstar, using Lilandra, using Bat Signal, or Cape Crusader with Flock of Bats, and I know I'm missing something. I know I'm missing something, but pretty much if we can take all of that functional space manipulation and we boil it down and we say to our gameplay with the map, I'm going to hit you here. I'm not going to kill you, but I'm setting up the cripple for my next attack. My next attack is the cripple. Between my first attack and the cripple attack, you can't touch me. Now, once I land that cripple attack, you may be able to catch me because you've gained space. But once I create a hiccup where it's not I attack, you attack, I attack, you attack, I attack, you attack, and I go I attack, you attack, I attack, you attack, I attack, I attack, it creates a whole different tempo in which it will be extremely frustrating. Now, why you might be thinking that I'm bringing this up, and definitely within a map concept, I will say this. We have, in heroclix, perpetually promoted I am a captain of a massive military, or general of a massive military type mindset. We have an empire mindset in deploying. Okay? We have, and that's just because of the countries we live in. If you were live in most countries, guess what? Your side won, and you're part of the winning class. There were some losers there, and they're gone. Okay? Just pure and simple. If your military is in power, guess what? You won. Okay? So we think like that. Like, well, the military that came in that stomped the other one is the best. No, that's not necessarily the case. There is the concept called asymmetrical warfare. You can Google it, look it up. You can read, crap, I forgot the guy's name, but it was a general. He wrote the book called Armed War. I forgot his name, and he says something very interesting. He says, "War is not a game. War is a serious effect, a serious thing that must be taken seriously." And he goes on to elaborate why. And he says it's foolish that there's a whole lot of people that go to war for glory and honor and other things that are dumb because people die for that. Now, sort of take that same mindset and Van Clausewitz, that's it, I think it's Van Clausewitz. But he says, Van Clausewitz says something else that's quite interesting. He says, rules are for dummies. The other guy doesn't have rules. And for you to be bound by morals and ethics in war is dumb, because all it does is leave you the potential to be killed. Now, I can take Aquinas' just war theory and human rights ideas and all the other stuff and push that to the side and put that into the mix too. But I'm not. But functionally for what we are dealing with is, if we take Van Clausewitz's philosophy and you say rules are for dummies, which is the psychological boundaries in which we enforce upon ourselves when we play the game of heroclix that are outside of the rules and space and limitation of the figures and the rules set up by WizKids, is dumb. Then we have something. Okay? Then, sort of going back to the asymmetrical warfare, is by utilizing multiple mini forces or minimal forces, or forces that appear minimal but have high mobility that exceeds a massive force, or is able to utilize elements just due to their cost to provide very in and out attacking, it will create a scenario in which, yeah, if you tag one of those figures, they're done, but they're going to tag you 3 times before you get one tag on them. So if we start thinking like that, I think we can start creating some new stuff. And I think that's the new way to start thinking of things. And the best way of doing this is minions. Minions have gotten better than your grandma's minions that we got all the way back in Infinity Challenge, where it was just a weenie with a little sculpt on top. That's really all the dial was. It was a weenie. He had a sculpt on top. He had weenie stats, and that's all he did. He had weenie stats, and he was supposed to walk around and be a LexCorp security guard, or a thug, or a henchman of somebody. That's all he's supposed to do. Now, the new generation, that are straight out the womb, they come with leader bonuses and, group bonuses and horde bonuses and, I'm on, this team bonuses and keyword bonuses. These again, steroided chickens. So what they could do in the past of oh, look, I got a whole bunch of minions, ha ha ha, look, I got a hive trooper, ha ha ha, aren't I cute? Now it's like, oh crap, he has a whole bunch of Kryptonians. I better go kill that Jarrell. I better go kill that scientist. I better go kill this. Those are the things that come into your mind. It's like, oh man, Zod's scary. You know what Zod's going to do to all of them? And then the Kryptonian gets to do that. And this other thing because, a higher Kryptonian is within range. And it's like, oh man, they're really mobile because then they have this ability that they can move up. Chief example, PD. PD is probably one of the best examples of potential asymmetrical warfare that we can see played in the game of heroclix for 2 big reasons. Gordon and GCPD ATA. Forget the bike, forget the cruiser, and a bunch of other things that come out there. Okay? When you boil it down, and you have the ATA and you have Gordon, your ability to deploy that police force, whatever they are, becomes ridiculously strong. And you don't even have to say GCP to police. It could just be a police team, and you just have some GCPD ATA on there, because again, it's freaking expensive. All right. Now, when we sort of warp it all together and whip it really good, you have some characters that say, hey, I can go and be right near another character of lower points. I have Gordon who can put some characters and allow them to move out for free. I have some flyers that are flying stuff out because I got Nova Corps characters mixed in there. So I got some mobility there. The Nova Corps guys have some stuff that works together with Nova Prime and all these different little elements working together, whereas the fact of I'm able to move up, shoot you, oh shoot, I did this movement for free, and I have this other action that I can do. I'm going to run. Oh, you got to come to me. Oh, or shoot, I shot you. I'm going to go tie up one of your guys. And then I'm going to go move this other guy over here. And then once I do all that, next turn, I'm going to use another figure like the by the bat signal, and then summon my core figures back to the bat signal, and then put them next by Gordon, and then Gordon's going to redeploy them to do this, and this. You see how the fact that just using those teleportation concepts with high mobility doesn't need to be crazy damage. Could create situations where my opponent has to either clump together or spread out. Either way, they're at a disadvantage because they can't run their offense. That's a big problem. That's a big problem. So I I want everyone to start thinking, hey, what's next? What did I want to exploit before that I couldn't? What can I experiment with now that I feel that I actually feel safe experimenting, that I won't get, just gang beat up, just curb stomped every time I come out there because of team bases and heroes for hire and this, that, and the other. I think that we are at this point now where someone said, okay, the storm is passing over, let's assess the damage and let's rebuild. And that's where I'm at. I still am going to be honest with you all, and I do believe WizKids has burned its player base, and it's burned it bad. We spent money on team bases believing that they were going to operate a certain way. We spent money on going to events for the utility belt. We believing that it's going to work a certain way. We're doing that now with the Book of the Skull, and we're going to be doing that with the Phoenix Force. We're going to be doing that with the Mandarin resource dial. We're going to be doing that for whatever they think of next. So, I think a lot of people are like, WizKids doesn't care that I spent my money as long as I keep giving them money. And so even with my own player base that I've heard, because I haven't been able to go just because of economic limitations, and now that I'm working, most of the times I'm working is when people are playing, is for pretty much the three major venues in Kansas City, hardly anyone goes to now because it's almost every other week it's sealed because of a WizKids event and how strong team bases were and the brokenness that was, Ghost Riders and Heroes for Hire and Batmite. Well, take away Batmite. That was a whole different other situation. But just folks are burnt. And it's going to take some time to recover from those burns. And I think that WizKids has to build some confidence. And I think the first way to build the confidence, I would say, is give us a freaking break. Give us a break. You have Invincible Iron Man. You have another DC set coming. After that, give us a month or 2 months, no product. Get your house in order, WizKids. And you're going to be like, oh, but we can't. We have this planned, and we have these other things planned, and we're doing all this stuff, and blah, blah, blah. And I would say, please just shut the hell up and get your house in order. And I know that's probably strong for the show, and I know some people are like, it's not as strong as I heard. But again, I understand people listen with their kids. But I really wish I could just get Justin Zoran and some of the other designers and just say, y'all need to shut down shop for 2 months. Re-powwow. Say, what is this game about? Where is this game going? What is important to the players? What is important to us? What are we trying to fix? Why are we trying to fix it? What is valuable? What is not valuable? What is the size of our country? Where is our borders? How far can we go and go no further? How deep can we go and go no further? How high can we go and go no further? And I'll say this. The biggest failure I feel, and the biggest lie that I feel that was told to my generation, is that they told us that we can be anything, that there are no borders, that there are no limits. And because of that, we became a generation of undecisive, non-committal people. And I see it all the time. And I feel that is what WizKids is doing to us. Oh, we love the players. Oh, we love the distributors. Oh, we love everybody. Oh, we want to have this be a high-level game. Oh, we want a lot of casual people. Oh, we want everything. And that's greed. We want to please everybody. That's people-pleasing. And so I think we've seen what happens when that goes down. I really do. And I think there's something that has to be introduced into our vocabulary and WizKids culture, heroclix culture, and our culture in general is, guess what? Someone has to lose. And sometimes it needs to be WizKids. And sometimes it needs to be us. So anyway, that's it. You can check me out on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space, ran by a target, got me a job, and then rubbed my feet. I wish. You can follow me on Twitter, and definitely if you have comments, interesting little, quibbits that you want to throw my way on Twitter, do so. It's also the easiest way to find out when I'm out with a new show, or if there's not going to be a show this week. Not going to front. Boy gets tired some days. Also, you can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it rocking and rolling. Last week I asked you all, or last show, it hadn't even been last week. Like last show, I asked you all, what do y'all thought of the conclusion of the watch list? Now, I want you all to send me information on, hey man, what do you feel like playing? So we can go from there. All right. The blog may resurrect here. It most likely will resurrect before Thanksgiving. The question is when. So be on the lookout for that. I'll announce when I start getting serious about it, most likely on Twitter. But I do actually think I was pretty grateful for the fact that I didn't write it for a while, and it allowed me to focus on other things with the show. And I hope you feel that the quality, went up. And if you feel the quality went down or is, all right or, stayed the same, let me know, because I really want to gauge my interactions with you. And the main goal of the blog was to keep the spoiler and the, oh my gosh, did you just hear that stuff out of the show, so that we can focus in on the main topic, so that I didn't have to talk about things that you already knew about and have already heard other commentators talk about. Since I started the podcast game, we have seen a lot of other high-quality heroclix shows get on the scene, and they have the ability to beat me to the punch so many times. So I decided that the main goal for me on this show is just to focus on the meta and to focus on making you a excellent heroclix player, and that you have a resource for yourself and the community that you're in, so that you can have better games and understand what's going on. Okay. I did a show, just to let you know, I did a show about the Phoenix Force and my thoughts on that. And and also the hammer and Anger's hammer and all the stuff at the end of Fear itself. That show won't be going up for the pure fact, again, it referenced a whole bunch of things in the watch list and other elements. I may revisit that later. So don't think that I didn't see it or I don't know about it. But definitely when it comes to the Phoenix Force, I think there's a lot that needs to be clarified before I actually go into that. I think we need to hear what the devs and game design and the rules are say, because there's a whole lot of stuff that just needs to be clarified on that. Now, if you want me to just go ahead and talk about it, let me know, because I just can, and I can just try to re-record what I talked about before and just make it like a microcast. So it'll be like 15 to 30 minutes. And I can do that. So just let me know. Put in the comments below. All right. Thank you for listening. I really do enjoy doing the podcast. I'm glad for where the game is going, or the new direction that it's going. I feel a little bit of that joy that I had at the beginning of the year with the new pack. I feel we're coming a little out of the worst of times. I don't think that we're fully there yet. I still think that we have to rebuild some elements. I think there's a lot of stuff that's lost, but I do think we need to just rebuild. So if my Chiefs have taught me anything, and oh gosh, it pushes me a lot to say that, because I was a Chiefs fan and I got burned by them. Sometimes you gotta fire everybody to get where you need to go. And maybe that's what we need to do with our meta thinking. So, alright, that's it. Thank you for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.
I'm into comic books, figures on the wall. She's into looking good, Vicky C's got a law. And she loves my flaws, yeah, she's not ashamed. I'm a Peter Parker, she's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane. I'm a Peter Parker, she's my Mary Jane. I'm a big nerd around her, but she's cool around me. Never knew how she found me. Electric, but she grounds me. And she loves my flaws, she accepts them all. When the darkness comes, I will get the call. I will swing down to save her.